Welcome to Diversity Xtra with your host, Don Mckneely.
And hello, everybody. This is Don Mckneely, and thank you for joining us today here on Diversity Xtra, where we tell your story. Our guest today is Joe Mossinger, and Joe is the Senior Manager of Strategic Sourcing at Toyota Motor North America. Joe's current responsibilities there include procurement of advertising, marketing, dealer services, professional services, human resources, and information technology. Joe currently serves on the board of directors for the Women's Business Council Southwest as the council's first vice-chairperson. Joe earned his Bachelor's of Science degree in Business Administration with a minor in Industrial Relations and Personnel Administration from California State University in Hayward. Joe and his wife, Rochelle, have 3 children, Jordan, Megan, and Sydney. Joe, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Don. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, as we get started, can you maybe just tell us a bit about your background before going to Toyota, if you will, just a few things in the early years?
Sure. Well, most of my career is probably with Toyota. I've been with Toyota for 19 years.
Wow.
In a lot of different facets. So my first job at Toyota was actually working at a joint venture between Toyota and General Motors. I worked at a automotive plant in Fremont, California called NUMMI. And there I started out as a buyer buying stamping parts for the vehicle. And from there, I became the manager over the indirect materials. So everything in that plant was not centralized at the time, so it was all individually done. So I had responsibilities from construction to logistics to packaging to information technology to HR. So I pretty much, my group did all of it there. And from there, I kind of changed careers, or not careers, but jobs there. And I was part of what's called the procurement engineering commodity. So we went in and did a lot of the production prep. So I was a project manager for the Corolla, Pontiac Vibe, and Toyota Matrix. And we, went out and made sure all of the suppliers were production ready when the new started production. And then from there in 2010, I moved to Erlanger, Kentucky. That was quite a shock going from California to Kentucky. And there I started to work in the indirect materials as an assistant manager, and had responsibilities for HR, so all of the health benefits and all of the IT and anything that they needed pretty much in the corporate environment. And I did that for about 5 years, and then it was on to Plano, Texas. I was asked to come early. I was one of the first 50 people into our Plano office, or our temporary office, and my job was basically to get a contract labor up and running. So we had a system and a program in place for that, and then also do all the campus features such as the fitness center, the cafeteria, the on-site clinic, the pharmacy, the on-site store. So it was quite an undertaking, and I learned a lot. It was great. It was almost like working at a startup company with just 50 people there, and you're trying to build this massive campus. So it was pretty exciting.
So, Joe, in terms of the Plano campus now, you have about how many people do you have there now?
Well, it gets convoluted because we have team members, and then we also have contractors on site. I'd say I never thought we'd run out of space, but we are pretty full right now.
Wow.
In just a couple years. It's pretty exciting, which puts a lot of pressure on our cafeteria and all those things. But I'd say with everyone on site, it's give somewhere around the 6,000.
6,000 mark?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Hey, Joe, can you tell us a little bit about what the day-to-day is like for Joe Mossinger? Kind of how does your day shape up for you?
Sure. Well, obviously it changes with each time of the year, but right now we're finalizing a lot of contracts because our fiscal year end is April 1st, or March 31st, April 1st to March 31st. So we're getting all our new contracts in place right now. A little bit late, but we're getting them all done. And I'm reviewing a lot of those with my team to make sure, last minute negotiations that we have. But typically before we get into that stage, I'm working with a lot of the business units and putting together strategies, working together with them to develop these strategies, and then we go and implement those strategies. So we've been tasked with some pretty big cost targets in my group, just because you can think about how much the building cost in Plano to build. Well, people want an ROI on that, right? So the synergy task, we've got quite a target, and my team is hitting every target right now, so we are doing excellent on the cost savings initiatives in my group.
Great, excellent. If you just joined us, I'm speaking with Joe Mossinger. He is the Senior Manager Strategic Sourcing for Toyota Motor North America. And Joe, as we're talking about purchasing and supply chain, and talk about women and minority business development, when you're looking for a new supplier, what do you normally look for? What do corporations normally look for when they're trying to identify a new supplier? Is there a feel for that?
Well, I always try, when I go into I go to a lot of trade fairs, and when I go into these trade fairs, I'm looking kind of more broadly instead of defining a certain commodity, and the reason being is, if you think about a company like Toyota, pretty much everything I need, I already have a supplier to do that. Now, it's the new stuff that comes up that is not, so it's more a niche type stuff. So if I can start to develop and understand capabilities of these suppliers in more of a broad brush, I can find the niche market for those suppliers. And I think we've been pretty successful, especially in the Dallas area, with a lot of minority and women-owned businesses.
If a minority or woman-owned business is looking to try to do business with Toyota, what would you suggest as being the best way or the best approach for them to try to pursue opportunity?
Come to our events, definitely. We have 2 events per year, Opportunity Exchange and Power of Exchange, and basically we're bringing all of our tier 1 suppliers to exhibit there, and we're opening it up for free. You just got to get there, and you have access to all of our tier 1 suppliers, and they all understand how important supplier diversity is to Toyota. So they're ready to be engaged. They're bringing the right people for you to talk to and hopefully get something done. It's not so much for you to come talk to Toyota, it's for you to come talk to our suppliers, because a lot of times if you're a supplier to our tier 1 partner, we're going to learn a lot more about you there, and then when we're ready for an opportunity with you, you're going to be a lot more ready to do business with Toyota than you would be if you had never done business with one of our suppliers.
Excellent. So as we talk about supplier diversity and supply chain diversity, how did you get your start, Joe, in supplier diversity?
That's a kind of funny story. Well, I did originally when I was in Northern California. My general manager at the time, she was on the board of the Minority Council, local chapter there in Northern California, and she knew me being in indirect materials. She knew a lot of the suppliers all fell into my area of expertise, so I would get brought along to a lot of these events and everything, and I just started meeting with people, and I'm like, it was just like, it was a perfect match. It was something that it just came natural to me, and I just really enjoyed, not just changing people's lives, but coaching them, trying to explain to them how you should talk to these suppliers, mentoring, and it's just become something that has brought passion to me. And so when I went to Erlanger, I served on the local chapter there, And then when I went to Plano, I was asked to be on the local chapter here, and I've just, great. Anything, I always say, anything I can do to help, please let me know. I'm here to help.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great approach. We like that a lot, Joe. And so as we talk about supply diversity and how you got your start and how you got involved, how has supply diversity progressed over the years? Have you seen much progress in the supply diversity arena since you've been involved?
Oh, yes. Just the growth of it. And when I say the growth of it, obviously there's more women and minority-owned businesses out there, but it's the corporations that have gotten involved. I mean, Toyota's been involved for many years, but it's nice to see and us partnering with other corporations and helping develop these suppliers. And that's the part that I have seen the biggest growth is it's not just a couple of companies involved in it. It's now you go to the national events and it's every, Fortune 500 company you could think of is now there.
So it's really really growing. The initiative, if you will, is really making some good progress. So as we talk about supply diversity and minority and women-owned business, I know there's always mention of certification. And so how important is certification to a supply chain that's involved in diversity and inclusion?
Well, when you think about large companies and how big their supply chain is, if we don't have certification, how are we going to track you? So it really kind of ties it all together. And so that's basically how we're going to assess what we can capture. Because obviously we want to report out what we do because we're pretty proud of it, right?
Sure.
We're definitely proud of our targets and achieving our targets. So without the certification, it just doesn't tie it all together. And I can tell you that the local chapters, especially the board I serve on at the WBCS, what they do for the women entrepreneurs is incredible. The events that they have, they bring in speakers, they give them such great access to the large corporations. It's amazing. I mean, I would think if my wife owned a business in this area, I would tell her in a heartbeat, you have to go sign up because the benefits are exponential. So it's that important.
Absolutely. Well, and as you talk about the associations and organizations like the Women's Business Council Southwest, then you also have the Minority Business Development Council that focuses on the ethnic multicultural minority community. And so the value that they bring to an organization like Toyota, how do you see that value? How does that really help Toyota accomplish what they're trying to accomplish, Joe, in that space?
Well, first and foremost, I'm trying to get the best supplier for the best thing, right? But I have adapted into my procurement process that all my team, when they bring a sourcing approval, so not just we do what's called a bidder approval at the beginning and a sourcing approval at the end. And when they do a bidder approval, they need to show me that there was diversity in their criteria. Now, they might come in with 10 suppliers and then they select to go out to bid for maybe 5, but that's fine. Out of the list that you have, there better be a couple of diverse or women-owned companies in there. Otherwise, I'm sending them back to the drawing board and they're going to start over.
Absolutely.
So that's part of the process.
Absolutely. Yeah, so
and we've gotten the business units now to buy in on it. So when we have our opportunity exchange and our power of exchange, we're bringing some of the executives from the business units, such as marketing, such as IT, so that they see what we're trying to do, and they have conversations with the suppliers, and they start to buy into it, and then it brings the program full circle.
Now, Joe, you mentioned the power of exchange and opportunity exchange. How often do you have these programs?
Well, Opportunity Exchange is once a year, and it's always in the November timing. We've done it, I'm drawing a blank on how many years, but it's probably close to 30.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And this year it's the beginning of November, and it's in Novi, Michigan. And I recommend everyone who is a woman-owned or minority-owned business go to this. And you will, when I go to the local trade fairs, this one is basically closer to the national scale than it is the local scale. So I think it's very worth it.
Yeah, so all roads basically will lead to Novi in the fall.
That's right.
You know, yeah, because I know I had done some research and I saw that some of the opportunity exchanges attract as many as maybe 2,000 people or something. That's so right. It sounds like it's huge.
It is extremely huge. And the one thing we try to do as a company is we have a whole bunch of our buyers there. And not just the indirect buyers, we have direct buyers, logistics buyers, we have all kinds. And if you're a supplier and you come to our booth, and we'll walk you, if you ask for help, we'll walk you over to certain suppliers that you want to meet and introduce you. And sometimes when a Toyota buyer introduces you to their supplier, it's a little more powerful than you walking up there yourself. So we try to take it to that next level to help engage in that partnership.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, as you talk about your suppliers, your diversified suppliers in particular, Toyota has a very, very successful program. Have there been some success stories that have come out of the program that you can maybe point to, Joe, that resonate very well?
Oh, yeah. I mean, some good examples right off the top of my head is our MSP program. I met TKT. I met them there, and while I was talking with them, they were asking who they should partner up with. Well, I at the same place, I see Zero Chaos, who had just lost their certification, and they were looking for a partner, and so I introduced the two. And now they are a tier 1 to us. They actually partnered for a bid for us, and they won that bid.
Wow.
It was that simple. And same with CFJ Manufacturing. We met them at one of our shows here, Power of Exchange, and then also on the WBCS board. But they waited until the owner was off our board before they came to us, because they felt, being on the board and me being on the board, it was a conflict of interest. I respected that immensely. So instead of trying to use the power, saying, hey, look, I need this business because I'm on the board, she waited until she was rolled off and then came to me and said, hey, look, here's what I can do for you. And I'm like, wow, didn't know you could do all these things. And introduced them to the team, and they were able to bid on a project, and now they're a tier 1 supplier to Toyota. It's a great story.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Joe, switching gears just a bit, in this competitive environment and the supply chain in particular, what is it that businesses, minority business, women businesses, must do to stay competitive and to be viable in the supply chain? What is it they should be trying to do and focus on?
Well, I always say, don't try to be the jack of all trades. Focus on what you do best and do it the best you can, because suppliers are not, companies are not going to, basically, they don't want to just hear you can do something. They want you to be an expert in that, because we're giving you business because you're the expert in it. We're not. We're trying to say we're outsourcing this business to you manage it. So I always try to explain to people, if this isn't your sweet spot, I always ask suppliers, what is your sweet spot? What do you do best? Because I don't really want anything else. I want to know what you do the best, because if I bring someone to the business units and they're not ready or they don't do a good job, that business group is never going to listen to me again. So it's very impactful that you do that job very well, because it doesn't just hurt that company, it's going to hurt every other minority and women-owned business, because I've now lost that credibility. So I do my due diligence to make sure I get the best supplier, that they're ready and capable, because I want to make sure it's successful for everybody.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, earlier you mentioned a Tier 1, and for the sake of the listening audience that's not that familiar with supply chain, procurement, and sourcing, but has a business and would like to do business with a company like Toyota, become a supplier to Toyota, you mentioned Tier 1. So, and I think there's also, Tier 1, Tier 2. Can you explain the difference in the two for us?
Of course. So Tier 1 is someone that has a contract with Toyota, so we are paying them directly. Tier 2 is someone who's doing business with the person we're paying. So let's say I'm paying supplier A. Well, Tier 2 would be supplier B. Supplier A is paying supplier B. Tier 1 is supplier A, if that makes sense. So a good friend of mine always tries to explain. She's a good mentor to people. So Rosa Santana, who's someone I serve on the board with, and who has been a longtime supplier of Toyota, she always tries to explain to new suppliers who just want to go get business with Toyota, start out as a Tier 2. Toyota has very strict standards for suppliers, and if you're not ready for that, it's not going to be good for people. So work with our Tier 1s first, get that exposure, understand the culture. You know, what's the old saying? Green is green. It doesn't matter if you're Tier 1 or Tier 2. Money's money.
Absolutely. So as we talk about the Tier 1 suppliers, and you mentioned opportunity exchange and the power of exchange, that's the best way, I guess, for a Tier 2 supplier to meet a Tier 1 supplier.
That's right.
And that's also, I guess, certainly a good connection point to begin a relationship with a Toyota. Let me ask you this, Joe, in terms of organizations that out there to help minority and women-owned businesses, like the Women's Business Development Council and the Dallas-Fort Worth Minority Supply Development Council, any idea what what they look for in terms of new membership and involvement with their councils? What is there an expectation from the organizations relative to the supplier?
And I think both. I can explain more of what the Women's Business Council does, because I'm on that council. We actually have a scorecard for all of the board of directors, and there's like 30-something board of directors. And it shows, did you attend this event? Are you on a certification? Are you in a, so it has all these different criteria, and what that does is it keeps everyone involved. And we're all competitive people. When you get the scorecard, everyone's getting the scorecard, and yours is saying you're not involved in something. You know, we're competitive people. We're going to get that job done. And the one thing I can say on the Minority Council is Toyota is working with them. We've just implemented a new mentoring program to where we have, this year we rolled it out on the minority side. We've been doing it on the women's side for a couple years now, but on the minority side we rolled it out, and it's kind of a great thing. And my boss Bonnie Clinton implemented this, and what it is we picked 4 minority suppliers that they worked with Margot, the president of the council, and I got assigned one, and a bunch of other senior managers. So we have a senior manager to that person, and then we have an executive sponsor to that person as well at Toyota. And we go through a year-long program, and we're getting ready to graduate them in July. And it's just been a great program. And what we're going to do on the minority side is even better. So Toyota did this one to start, but next year we're going to add all of the corporations, and every corporation will do 1 or 2 next year. So we're making it exponential.
Oh, wow.
So that's a little more powerful. It's not just Toyota saying, hey, let's do a mentor program. Now it's going to be more corporations. And I think this is something that I'm going to, talk to Debbie Hurst on the women's side to see if maybe we can do that too, because we already do the Toyota one there, but maybe we can expand it too to do the other corporations as well. Because then it gets exponential, and everyone's getting that exposure with the companies and just learning how to do business with corporations.
Absolutely. As we talk about supply diversity and economic development, Joe, it seems like supply diversity, minority business development, women business development is really, really good for the economy, really good for the communities. What seems to be the driving force for minority business development, supply diversity development in today's marketplace? Are there some driving forces that seem to be moving that forward?
It certainly does seem so, and I know our philosophy is buy from who buys from you, right? So that from a corporation, we're about making money, of course, but it's got, who's buying our product? Well, why aren't we buying from them? And that's more of the thought process that's of, is it the right thing to do? Well, of course it's the right thing to do, but why, right? Who's buying our product? Well, we should be buying from them. And that's kind of the overriding thought process, but I think it goes a lot deeper than that. But from an overriding corporation, I think that's one of the main reasons.
Absolutely. Also along that line, as we have more and more influx, if you will, of immigrants from outside the United States coming to the different markets and what have you, is that maybe also a driving force or indicator relative to supply diversity initiatives and the changing demographics, if you will?
Yeah, I would think so. And I know our supplier diversity team's looking at other areas besides just minority and women-owned businesses. They're ready to start developing and rolling out other things to measure.
Sure.
We're not ready to roll that out yet.
Right.
But when they are, I mean, we see that the demographics are changing, and the lifestyles are changing, and we got to be ready to adapt and move forward with them.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, as they say, time flies when you're having fun. And for those who just joined us again, our guest today is Joe Mossinger, and Joe is the senior manager for strategic sourcing for Toyota North America. And Joe, again, thank you for joining us. We look forward to having you back on the program real soon. And you take care and much success at Toyota.
Great, Don. Always a pleasure to spend time with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And for those of you who just joined in, again, this is Diversity Xtra, and we look forward to having you back as we talk about supply diversity, as we talk about economic development, and we tell your story. If you want to pick up on any of the previous episodes that we've had on Diversity Xtra, you can go to youtube.com, Diversity Xtra, and that extra is spelled Xtra, no E, Xtra, and we'd love to have you join us. Again, thank you for joining us, and have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you back again where we tell your story.